Hey everybody, my name is Sandy Cooprat and I am here from the Star Career Development Center, and we are doing our Power Half Hour on interviewing skills. All right, so here are our slides. So we are talking about interviewing skills today, and what we're going to be going over today, so our overview we're going to talk about what employers are looking for. So what qualities do they want in their future employees? We are going to talk about what you can expect. What type of interview questions might you face if you're on an interview? We also will discuss how to prepare for interviews. And even too, we have some tips and pointers for phone and Skype interviews, which are slightly different than the in-person, but a lot of similarities. Okay, so what is the point of an interview? So for the employer, the point of it is for them to see, one, are you a fit for their organization? Are you a fit for the job? But then also two, they were looking for, is this someone who I would like to spend 8 hours a day with? You know, is this someone who's going to help make my life easier? So when we are talking about the interview for an employer, that's what the employer typically is looking for. And so for you, the purpose of an interview for you is to sell yourself, to let them know these are the skills that I have for this job that I am going for. And you want them to see and to know that you are right fit for this position that you are going for. And it's also for a way for you to learn more about the employer and the position itself. Okay, so from the employer's perspective, they want to know, can you do the job? So they want to know what knowledge do you have? So that knowledge may come from your experiences that you've received or your coursework that you've gotten at Baruch College. There may be training that you've been to, skills, or even your work experience. They also may be looking for what personal qualities do you have and attitudes that you have that make for you to do the job well. They want to know, will you do the job? What's your motivation and your interest? So is this a job that you want to do, or are you just kind of like, I'll go for it? Will you fit in? You know, does your personality fit with the general alignment with the company culture? So from an employer's perspective, this is the eye that they have. Is like, is it the job person match? And will you fit in within the larger culture? And will you make their life easier? All right, so there are some key characteristics that employers are looking for. So they want you to have, and these are pretty much universal. They want you to have good interpersonal and communication skills, and that means both written and verbal communication skills. So you have to be able to speak with people of all different levels. It's helpful, but also to write. You know, can you write a professional email? Can you write a PowerPoint presentation in a professional way? They want to know, are you a team player? Do you get along well with others? Do you play well in the sandbox with people? They want to know, they want you to have knowledge of the mission, the company's mission and projects, meaning like what they are, you know, what they focus in on. They're looking for strong analytical and problem solving skills, which often you can show in some of maybe your projects that you've done in some of your classes. They want someone who's genuinely interested in their company and the job. They're looking for a positive attitude and enthusiasm. And these are just some of the key characteristics that employers are looking for. All right, so what to expect? What are certain, as far as interview questions? So there are 4 types of questions that you can expect on an interview. Now the first 3, the factual, behavioral, and the hypothetical, you're more likely to see those, you're more likely to see those in maybe your first interview or so with the HR person or a recruiter. But even so, I'm thinking the last 2, hypothetical and technical, that you're probably more likely to have with the manager, and you kind of go into more details. And I want to see if you have industry specific knowledge, but let's kind of dig into each one a little bit more. So the traditional or factual information is that's where your opportunity to kind of talk about yourself and your background. So when they say, tell me about yourself, or what courses have you taken in this field, they want to know just a little bit more about you, what you know, where you come from, not nationality or country or where do you come from, but more like experience, what experiences they have, or what has shaped your interest in this industry, so to speak. And this is when they say, tell me about yourself, that's your cue to go into your pitch. And so if you don't have a pitch, I recommend that you Google elevator pitch, 30-second pitch, or a 2-minute pitch to kind of learn how to do a pitch. The other type of question that they're going to be asking on there are behavioral questions. And so typically you're going to hear, tell me about a time when you did blank. And so they want to see, because if you've done it in the past, they assume that you can do it in the future. So evidence from the past is hopefully proof that you could do it in the future. So they may say, tell me about a time that you initiated a project or change at work. They may give you a hypothetical situation or like a case or something like that and be like, all right, if this particular situation came up, what would you do? What would you do? How would you solve this particular problem? And so they want to kind of look at your problem solving skills. And then the technical questions, now that what that is, they want to know about your industry specific knowledge. So for my accounting and finance students, they may say, walk me through a cash flow statement. If there's another industry, they may say that if it were marketing, they may ask, how would you go about developing a marketing campaign for a company or for a PR campaign for a person or what have you. So that's a little bit more specific, and that's generally going to be done by someone who's actually managing you. So as you get someone who is more of an expert in or a subject matter expert, that's when you're going to start seeing more of those technical interviews. Okay, so behavioral questions. It's important for you to prepare about 3 to 4 situations that you want to share or prepare and put into SARA format that highlight a skill or competency that they care about in the job that you're going for. So, and it's important for you to take the time to prepare your SARAs, because in the absence of preparing your SARAs, often what happens is if you don't prepare for your interviews, you're more likely to recall situations from the past 2 weeks. And they may or may not be the best examples of you solving that particular problem. So it's important for you to think ahead of time, like think about the job description. When have I done something like that? Or when have I done that task that they're looking for? And then what you have to do is, so for example, like I may want to prepare, talk about the time that you organized a workshop, talk about a time that you did this class project and you presented it to the class of 25. And then I'm going to talk about this other thing. These are going to be my 3 situations. And what I do is I put them into SARA format. So by SARA format, I mean situation and task. So what was the situation or the problem and what were you trying to achieve? So I'll give an example. So the problem is that incoming transfer students were missing out on internship opportunities and they were coming too late, right? So what we did was we developed this program called Bridge to Baruch, which kind of trained students ahead of time, taught them about the deadlines, helped them get their resumes and their cover letters in order so that they were able to participate in the recruitment process in the August through October timeframe, so that this way they didn't miss out on opportunities. And as a result of that, not only qualitatively did we not have students coming to us in April saying, I wanted an internship for that summer. We had people, there was many of our students who in the fall of that year that they joined Baruch, they actually had internships lined up and winternships signed up for the following year. So as a result of that, many of our students had internships when in the past they may have not. And so what we learned the importance of is kind of getting students before they actually come to Baruch so they learned about the timeframes and what they need to do in order to succeed. So you have to think about these. put it into Sarah format, each of your situations, and that is a way for you to prepare. So when they ask you, tell me about a time when you did this, you could be like, all right, I'm going to tell them about my workshop, I'm going to tell them about my class project, I'm going to tell them about this, and you're going to put it in the Sarah format so that you can be more concise in your answers. Okay, so just think about what situations might you want to tell when you're on an interview, and look at the job description to make sure it makes sense that that's the right example that you're using. Okay. All right, how to prepare. I can't stress enough how important it is for you to research the organization and the industry. You could do so by going onto Yahoo Finance. You could Google the company. You could look at their website. You can also go to vault.com. We have a tool on Star Search called vault.com, and you could research all sorts of companies and their internship programs and what prior interns have said. So I can't stress the importance enough about researching. Also, what you should do before an interview is look at the job description. So you could link your experiences to the position. So you could look at the job description and say, oh my goodness, they're looking for this particular skill. I did that while I was working at, say, Dunkin' Donuts, or maybe I did that one while I was working at the restaurant. And you can talk about those different experiences, match the experiences to the job description, and remember that. You want to remember, I have that skill that they care about in this job that I'm going for. So reflect on your experiences, identify examples that demonstrate that skill. Be prepared to speak about everything on your resume. Listen, I've had some students, I say, oh, look on your resume, you did, you talked about filing. What were you filing? I don't know. It was a long time ago. I don't remember it. Listen, if you have it on your resume, you have to speak about it. So you need to be prepared. If you don't remember what you were doing, it shouldn't be on your resume. You need to be able to talk about in detail the things that you did on an interview. Okay. Also, prepare questions that you want to ask at the end of the interview. This is really important. So I recommend that what you do is you Google good questions to ask on interviews, and you should have prepare like 10 questions, right? And then at the end, when they say, do you have any questions for me? You say, you know what? I have some questions for you. I prepared questions, but you answered many of them. And so let me just look through that list and see if there's any that you didn't answer. And if they didn't answer any of your questions, if they already answered them, then maybe you could always ask, well, what is it that you like about this job? Or you could even ask the question, and the question was, is there anything about my experiences that you have any concerns over? That make you question whether or not I'm the right candidate for the position. If you're feeling bold, you could ask that at the end of your at the end of your interview, to kind of make sure, or give you the opportunity to clarify. Like maybe you weren't clear about when you did that particular task that they need you to have. And then that's your opportunity to kind of catch it quickly before you leave the interview. And above all, we want you to practice. So I want you to practice with other people. I want you to practice with your career counselor. I want you to practice using the mock interview module on Star Search. So when you go onto Star Search and you click on your home page, and on the right side of your page, it says resources. Click on resources, and at the very bottom that says mock interview. And so you could practice interviewing, or at least for video screens, using the mock interview module on Star Search. Okay, so things to consider for a phone or Skype interview. So if it's as with an in-person, you have to do a little research, and not like cyber stalking or anything like that, but you want to look them up on LinkedIn. Maybe you could see where were they working before, look at the different job titles that perhaps they had, kind of look at their career trajectory, what have they done in the past. When you're on the phone or Skype interview, it's important for you to listen and be present. So we don't want any sort of distractions. So we don't want music, no food, no gum. And listen, you want to make sure your little brother is not in the background, or that your dad doesn't come behind you when you're in the interview. So you want to make sure that you let your roommates know, like, hey, listen, I'm going to be on an interview now. Can you stay away, or can you go out for a little bit? Or maybe you could find a spot. Maybe there's a room somewhere, or the library or someplace where you can get some private time to do this interview. You should be ready at least 15 minutes before your appointment. and find a quiet, comfortable, bright place where there is where there's little clutter behind you. You don't want it to look like an episode of Hoarders, okay? You do not want a bunch of schmutz in the background. You don't want your Superman poster. You don't want anything weird behind you. So I would rather see you with a blank wall, like a white wall behind you, so that there's nothing distracting the employer from talking about you and your skills and how you match the job that they're going for. Okay. So additional tips for phone interviews. I want you to smile. Smile. You'll sound more enthusiastic and friendlier when you are smiling on the interview. So to the extent that you can, I even recommend that you stand up if you can. Meaning if it's not on the camera, you're not gonna, we want your face to be on the camera and be in full screen. But if you could stand, that might help you project a little bit more confidence. Take notes about the questions being asked. That's really, really important. So write down the questions that they ask. Reason being is that sometimes they may ask you a two-part question. And if they ask you a two-part question, sometimes people forget the second part. So if you take notes, it kind of looks that it gives the message that I am detail-oriented and that I'm careful and that I want to make sure that I am thorough. So take notes on the questions that are being asked. Keep your answers clear and to the point. And those SARAs that we talked about earlier will help you be clear and to the point. By being prepared, you could be clear and to the point. You don't want to ramble. So also pausing and asking the interview to repeat a question is okay. So that's really important. Like it is okay for you if you missed them, didn't hear them, you were unclear about what it is that they were actually asking. It's okay for you to ask it again. And above all, we want you to be prepared to ask questions at the end, just like you would in a normal interview. It's just be prepared to ask questions at the end. All right, on the day of the interview, if this is an in-person interview, and you know what, listen, even on time, well, okay, so for an in-person interview, you want to know the address and how to get there. For an online one, you want the URL, you want the Zoom link or whatever it is that you're doing. Have that ahead of time. Make sure you know that. Don't do it like 2 minutes before the session. Make sure you have it beforehand. Know the names and the roles of the employer. So you want to know, am I in front of the HR person or in front of the line of business person? It's important to know those things. To the extent that you can, if it's an in-person interview, arrive about 10 minutes earlier, and always be courteous to the receptionist. They say, everybody, like I've seen some students who, you know, listen, even if they're rude to you, you have to be courteous back, because if you want this job, you know, sometimes they will ask the people who you've been interacting with, you know, what did you think of that person? And they could say, no, you know, this person was rude, and it's possible that you know, your behavior towards someone else in the organization could impact your ability to get hired there. Dress professionally. Always, if you have any questions, run it in front of your career advisor just to make sure, hey, does this look professional with how I look? Bring plenty of resumes on an in-person interview. Don't assume that, yes, you already applied, so they already have your resume. Bring extra copies in case. Bring like 6. Bring 6 copies of your resume so you could pass it out to the people who are there. You never know when there's going to be more than one person interviewing at the same time, or maybe, you know, they may have you seeing different people one after the other. So it's important to have lots of resumes. And at the end, after you've met with someone, ask for their business cards. Ask them what the next steps are in the process, or ask when they might be making their decision, when they plan on making their decision for the position. All right, so those are really some concrete things. There's some other things when it comes to interviewing that you have to also manage. So there is the verbal content, which is what you're actually saying. There's the tone of what you say that is important. And then there's the nonverbal part of what you're saying. And you want to make sure that all 3 of those are communicating enthusiasm, positive confidence, those types of things. So you have to manage all 3 aspects of communication here. As far as like body language, you want to be dressed professionally. You want to have your hair done. You want to have your clothes ironed. So if you're wearing a shirt, you want to make sure that it's ironed and not wrinkled. Yes, so you want you to look at, you want to look professional. Handshake wise, I don't think we have to worry about it as much in this age of COVID, but you still do. It's like a nice balance between we call it the limp fish handshake, and then the one where they crush your hand. So you want it to be somewhere in between that, but I don't think we're going to be practicing that anytime soon. But just know that there is a um, a nice happy medium as far as the handshake when we do, if and when we do go back to doing handshakes. Posture. We want you to sit up straight, shoulders back, chest out, as a way to communicate confidence. So when you are slouching, it does not give the impression of confidence or competence, and people are less likely to trust you with their business. They may say, oh, this person, I don't know if they can handle that, or, they seem like may not be confident. We need someone who's confident and competent in this position. So posture is a way to communicate that. Your facial expressions, we want to make sure that you are smiling. Again, it has to make sense though. You don't want to be like super smiley. There is a difference between that, but you don't want to be scowling either on your interview. We want to have professional. Eye contact. So some students really struggle with eye contact, and I can't communicate how important it is. So if you are one of those people who does struggle with eye contact, one of the things that I recommend that students do is, you kind of alternate your vision between, trying to have eye contact with them and then perhaps looking slightly away, so that when you're talking with them, you're kind of altering it, because you don't want to be super creepy and stare at them, because that's weird too. And even too, if you struggle with having eye contact with people, sometimes what people do is they focus their eyes, they're looking not necessarily in their eyes, but maybe like right between the eyes, as a way to kind of, but always you're kind of looking and then perhaps looking away a little bit, as a way to balance that. Your gestures. So people like seeing your hands, but you don't want to be you don't want to gesticulate too much. Okay. So, but for the most part, if you can, some moderate gestures are okay. And composure. People want to see that you are composed under pressure. So if for some reason you're on an interview and you find yourself feeling nervous, it's okay to take a breath. If they ask you a question and you find yourself feeling nervous, just kind of take a deep breath in, hold the breath, say, that's a good question. And give yourself a minute to think. You don't have to respond like that to everything. It is okay for you to breathe, say, that's a good question, as a way to catch your breath and to think a second. Okay? So as far as composure, that is one way that you can compose yourself a little bit. Okay, in sum, think of the 3 P's. So you want to have purpose, you want to be prepared, and you want to practice. And so what I mean by purpose is, you need to really think about, why do you want that job? And you need to be able to tell them, why I want that job. Okay. And if you're not sure why you want that job, then this is the opportunity for you to, let's come for career testing. Let's narrow down what it is that you want, down to, like, say, 1 or 2 choices, 1 or 2 directions. And you could try one or the other to kind of first to see which one, test it out to see if that's something that you like. But it's really important for you to know and to be able to articulate with enthusiasm, why do you want that job? All right. So the purpose, make sure, think about why you want the job, and be able to articulate to them. Maybe you've always had a passion for that, but I think it's important for you to communicate that to the employer. Preparing, again, look at the job description. And now this is another thing. So students, when you get a job, when you apply for a job, sometimes after they've gathered all of their resumes, they will take down the posting from the internet because they don't want to receive anymore. And so with that said, I think it's important for you to track all your jobs that you've applied for, save the job descriptions in a Word document, copy, paste it, stick it in a Word doc, so you can go back and find it and be able to look at that job description and prepare for the interview that you're going for. There is nothing worse than going on an interview and you don't remember what the job was. So I've done it before. I don't want you to do that. So it's important, save the job descriptions in case they take it down off of the internet and you can't go back and read it, to better target your interview and prepare ahead of time. So you want to make sure that you go onto Yahoo Finance, go onto vault.com, go onto Vault, you have finance, and the company website. Look at their mission, look at their values, what they stand for, who are their clients. Kind of know those things to show that I've done a little bit of research on your company, and I'm excited about that. So purpose, know why you want this, prepare, know a little bit more about the company and the position that you're going for, and then above all, practice. And it's one thing to think in your mind, it's another thing to have it come out of your mouth. And so that's why it's important to set up a mock interview for an in-person one. You could practice using the mock interview module, which is available through Star Search under resources on your homepage. And even too, make people listen to you. Practice your pitch. Your pitch is probably one of the most important things. And again, that's another thing that I would recommend that you Google 30-second pitch, elevator pitch, and 2-minute pitch so that you know what you should be doing and how you can better prepare. But above all, really, it's one thing to think it in your mind. It's another thing when it comes out of your mouth. So it's important to practice it out loud with other people. All right, after the interview, you go on this interview, you ace it, you have all of that prepared ahead of time. Always send a thank you note within 24 hours of the interview. A standard note just says, thank you, nice to have met you. And a more strategic note says, thanks, nice to meet you, and reiterate why you are the best candidate for the position. All right, so these are just some good best practices afterwards. Keep in mind, it's best for you to be genuine, be yourself. They want you to be successful. And sometimes, you know, it's just a matter of a job fit. It doesn't mean that they don't like you or that you're not a good person or that you're not qualified. Maybe just the other person, maybe it was they had some other one experience that was a little bit more like the position that you're going for. So that's why it's so important for you to be gracious, even in the face of rejection. Because sometimes when we feel hurt, sometimes we can perhaps be snippy or what have you, but it's important to be gracious even in the face of rejection, because you never know when things don't work out with perhaps the other person, or maybe in the future, they can keep you in mind. If you made it to the top 3 people that they were considering, they saw something in you that they liked. It's just maybe there was just someone who had a different experience that set them apart from the rest. And above all, it's important to take care of yourself in the interview process. Sometimes it's hard putting yourself out there. And so I do recommend, you know, while you're doing this is kind of like dating, you know, it's like dating. You're putting yourself out there and you're interviewing and you're being vulnerable and you're trying to show your best. But listen, I don't want you to waste all of your time. So if you've gone on like 5 interviews and you have not gotten a job after going on 5 interviews, then come into Star and do a mock interview and have someone give you feedback. Maybe there's something weird that you're doing you're not aware of, and you just need somebody to point it out and go to coach you about how to make that a little bit better. So just take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, and eventually you will get something. Once you are focused and you have your ducks in a row and you know what you want, it's just a matter of getting you to that position. So to better support you in your endeavors, we have the mock interview module, again, which I talked about, which is on Star Search, is under resources, and then it says mock interview. Focus to, if you do not know what it is that you want and you cannot clearly articulate why you are passionate about this job, we need to find where's your passion, what are you excited about. Focus 2 is one of the tests that you could do right from your homepage. You could launch it from there and take a career test and help you figure it out. And again, we have more career testing at Star. Going global is for those who want to do perhaps an internship internationally. So if you wanted to if you were studying abroad in Paris, you can find internships in Paris through Going Global. And then vault.com is just another place for you to research companies and internships and get more career information. So I recommend you check out vault.com, launch it from your Star Search homepage. Again, if you just go to vault.com just from the regular internet, you're not going to get the special subscription version of it, which we have at Baruch. So take advantage, launch it from your Star Search homepage to have access to all the information that you want when you're going for interviewing. All right, so above all, also, we have the SCDC weekly newsletter. This lets you know when we're having companies who are coming here because they want to recruit you, Baruch students. So if you are not getting these, look in your spam, make sure it's not in your spam. email thing. And if you're not getting it, I'll send you I will show you in here the email that you can to let us know that you want to sign up for it if you're not getting it. We have the SCDC blog, so you can learn about other opportunities that aren't posted on Star Search. And we have social media channels. We are on Twitter, Facebook. We're also on Instagram. Even though there's no icon for Instagram, you can see and get information about Instagram and all the different events that we have and see the goings on that we have at Star and with all of our Star employers. So if for some reason you are not getting the Star Weekly, you could email us at careerdc@baruch.cuny.edu, and then you can get that Star Weekly newsletter coming to you. These are our walk-in hours that we have during the semester. They're not going on right now, but just know in the fall we will have some version of these in the online format. And so that is all that I have. Thank you for your attention.